Hello, and welcome back to the fifth in a series of transformative tales. And I am Anna the Wolfe, and I'm so happy that you're joining me on this transformative journey. Last time we met, you were on the shore of Mirror Lake, and the great Queen Turtle had gifted you a sword, and you'd made it out to the edge of the lake when you heard behind you deep, padding footsteps, and you thought you heard a growl. And you turned around, there was absolutely nothing there. So you checked. You checked all around in the mud alongside the banks, and there was nothing there. No footprints, no slither marks, no claw marks. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. So you thought nothing of it. You thought, well, that's very strange. And you checked your pockets to see what was left. There was no longer a pocket knife. There was no longer a compass. All that was left was your pocket watch. And of course, the very large, beautiful inlaid sword that the Queen Turtle had bestowed upon you. And so you fashioned a scabbard and wore it between your shoulder blades on your back. And you thought, well, I've really got to figure out what way to go. And so, without a compass, you checked in with your heart and felt the way to go was back into the woods. And so, you reached down into your pockets for the gifts that had been bestowed upon you, all that you'd been given, and what was left was a watch. So you held up the shiny gold watch from Mr. Fox's den, and you looked at it, and it seemed like it was moving just a little too slow. So you thought, maybe I'll just hurry up a little bit and see if this helps. And so you walked with a brisk pace into the forest, where it became a little bit darker. And so you quickened your pace just a bit more, and the watch turned a little bit faster. And that's when you heard it. You turned around, and there was a broken branch behind you, but there was nothing. You couldn't see what it was, but you felt very certain something was out there following you. So you began to hustle. You really started to move then. You thought, okay, I need to find some shelter because I pretty much feel like something's following me. You jumped over a log. You slid down an embankment. And it seemed the faster you go, the louder the noises behind you became. You heard when you came to the bottom of a precipice. And that's when you knew for sure something was in pursuit of you. You held up your sword and you said, "Don't you come near me. Don't you take one step closer or I'll slit your throat. That's what I'll do." And nothing replied. Only the mildest of winds curled through your hair. And you backed up and you thought, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just go into this cave over here, and that's where I'll stay, and I'll be safe. And so you went in, you gathered some firewood, and you sat there, and you could hear something pacing back and forth all night in front of that cave. You thought, geez, what am I going to do? And so then, sure enough, the next morning the alarm rang on your pocket watch, and you got up, and you gathered firewood, and you brought in water. And you gathered some nuts and seeds and some berries, and you took them back to your cave. And all the while keeping watch over your shoulder, very certain there was something there. And as soon as night fell, that's when you could hear it. And eventually, it came so very near that it said, "I know you are in there hiding, and I can see you." And to that, you pulled up your blankets and put another log in the fire and looked at your watch, and it was going very quickly now. Time had sped up while you were in your cave hiding away. And every night you did this for a full week. Every night you gathered firewood and water and food during the day. And every night it got closer and closer. And you started losing sleep because you were so exhausted. The fear had overcome you at night and you could no longer sleep. And one day you woke up and it was nearly dusk. And you knew you had to go out and gather firewood still. And you thought, well, I'll just go very, very fast. And you looked at your pocket watch and it was flying. The time was going so quickly now. And you raced out into the forest and you grabbed armloads of wood, and it wasn't really the best wood to be burning, but it was what you could grab in a very hasty hurry. And you started heading back when one of the logs fell and you tripped and you tumbled down into a ravine. And that's when you noticed that the sun was setting and you heard very distinct footsteps behind you. And you turned around and you saw absolutely nothing. And you got up and you got back on the trail and started walking along next to a cliffside when from above you leapt out two very large claws, and they descended on you and they pinned you to the ground by your shoulders. And it was she, the mountain lion that had been chasing you and hunting you all these days. And she said, what are you going to do now? You here on the trail with just a pocket watch as your company. What possibly could you do to defend yourself from me, the huntress? And you go to grab your sword and you pull it forward, and she, with her teeth, grabs the sword and throws it off to the side. She said, that will not defend you. And with a fierce growl, she reared back her head and bared her teeth. And from within your coat pocket, you heard the box begin emitting the song of sorrows. And the lid flung open and the wailing began as her teeth came down and barred on your neck. And you could see her eye to eye as she held you down on the trail as night set. And there was nothing to be done. And you looked deep in her eyes and you knew she had you. And that's when you noticed her eyes and the sorrowful song of sorrows and the tears running from the lioness's eyes. And they dripped onto your eyes and they ran down your face. And the two of you, in all your fear and anger, wept bitterly on the trail together in the dead of night. There was nothing to be done other than feel her soft fur and stroke the back of her beautiful, strong, sinewy neck and hold her close to you, knowing that she might kill you at any moment. You had such deep, deep empathy for her sorrow, and she could feel your sorrow, and they were one. It was on that trail that you curled up together as one soft creature in the moonlight. And when the morning woke, your pocket watch had changed. She had very neatly with her claws fashioned the chain that had chained you to time before into a sweet bow, and she'd pinned it neatly to your cape, just here. And you listened to it, very still in the morning light. And the ticking now sounded thump, 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 thump. It was now the sound of your true heart, restored. I thank you so much for joining me for today's tale, and I hope that you eventually get to curl up with your own lioness. And I thank you for joining me, Anna the Wolfe, on this most recent transformative tale. And I hope that you'll like this, share it, and subscribe for future chapters as we continue deep into the forest of the unknown together. Thanks so much. Goodbye.